Hi, this is New to the Street Leadership. I'm Jane King.
I'm Matt Doherty. Each month on New to the Street Leadership, powered by Sector Spider ETFs, we will focus on the leadership journey of our guests and what they learned along the way. We will talk to amazing leaders in both the private and public sectors.
We'll dig deep and we'll speak to accomplished business leaders and discuss how a leadership platform is essential to meet goals and inspire others.
It's brought to you monthly by Sector Spider ETFs. Let's talk leadership.
You could buy a single stock and go all in on one company, or own the sector and invest in keeping good company. Is it so radical to be so rational? Before investing, consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Go to sectorspiders.com for a prospectus containing this information. Read it carefully. Sector Spiders, the 11 sectors of the S&P 500.
Tucker York is the global head of Goldman Sachs Wealth Management. He is a member of the management committee and began his career covering clients in New York and continues in that capacity today. Mr. York joined Goldman Sachs in 1986 in New York as a private wealth advisor. He was named managing director in 1996 and partner in 2000 and is a proud alum of the University of North Carolina, as is my co-host Matt Doherty. And great to have you both here.
Go
today.
Heels.
Go Heels.
I'm a Purdue grad, so I'm just over here.
That's okay. That's okay. We respect Purdue.
Always happy to talk about basketball.
Yeah, that's right. But on this show, we're going to talk leadership. Okay. And Tucker, you've been at Goldman. My brother works for you at Goldman Sachs, my brother John, since 1986, the premier world leader in investment banking. What changes have you seen as you've gone from a wealth manager to now a director, managing director at the firm?
Thanks, Matt. That's generous comments about Goldman Sachs. By the way, I still am a wealth manager, and I think especially as we talk about leadership, I think it's the practicing, the continuing the practice is an important part of things. But I'm very fortunate. I feel very fortunate that I've been at the same place, literally since I got out of business school. And I will tell you that was not the plan. Mm-hmm. That was not the plan. I've seen a lot of changes. But if you think about 37 years, there's been a lot of changes everywhere. And the firm has actually been around since 1869.
Wow.
And so I think like any entity, organization, certainly a for-profit company, to be around that long, part of it is, frankly, the ability to not only deal with change, but I would argue embrace change and sort that out for the future.
Talk about change. We see different generations come in. We're in our 60s.
We are?
Yeah, news alert.
Yes.
You notice I said 60, so it could be 61 or 69. I think
Let's
we're
do that
both
for a
on
while.
The lower end.
Yeah.
How do you stay current, especially in attracting talent? Because at the end of the day, we need talent on our teams, whether you're in sports or business. How do you stay current in attracting good talent and retaining good talent?
Yeah, and I think that question was the same 35 years ago. The answers are different to it, meaning the essential part of that. I think we are absolutely, as a service business, people business, we're in the talent management business, and making sure that not only do you get the best people, it's do you retain the best people over the long term. I mean, you mentioned your brother. He's been with us only 23 years. That's an amazing number. If you think about corporate America, to have people around that long, and we have well over 500 people that have been there more than a quarter century. I'm in the quarter century club, and so I think basically people want to be a valued member of a winning team. At the end of the day, that's really what people want. That's what I want, and I think the more you kind of approach it from that lens. While you're still making sure that it works for all the other important constituencies, shareholders, very important, clients, business. We don't have clients, we have nothing else. And so putting that all together, I think, that's if you will, the mixture we're trying to keep correct.
And I'm just curious too, like how, because Goldman has really been at the top of the game through all of this. So how do you manage that change? How do you stay competitive? And especially through some of these events we've had COVID, we've had 9/11. I mean, what's kind of the Goldman philosophy up there?
Yeah, I think, and we could go on to the global financial crisis.
Right.
We could go back to the '87 market crash, which happened in my first full year. I mean, stuff is going to happen. You can't predict when, but you can predict that stuff will happen. And I think it's basically, for us, we practice a lot of broad concepts around risk management. And so while there's all kinds of projections about the good things that can happen, I would say we obsess about the bad things that could happen and make sure that we're prepared in these circumstances what would happen. So you mentioned 9/11, which from a pure market perspective arguably was not predictable, could from a political perspective. And yet after that happened, our clients did not sell stocks. Now a lot of stocks were sold, and I'm talking about on a net basis. But to me, I was very proud of that because it meant that our people had been in dialogue before these events to say, stocks are risky, stocks could go down. If you are overweighted in those, we should review that. And by the way, same thing happened in March of 2020 for COVID. It was the exact same thing. All of a sudden it was there, markets went way down, and on an aggregate basis, we had been in dialogues with clients so that they stayed the course, which of course ultimately was the right thing.
A lot of people listening, watching, run small to mid-sized companies. You, big scale at Goldman, worldwide, international. How do you plan for crisis, and what is the process? Like, do you meet? How do you manage it? And then how do you communicate to your team? What advice would you give a small to mid-sized Company to, be like, 9/11 could happen, COVID could happen. How do you communicate that to the team?
I feel like I started at a small company because there were, I think, 5,000 people when I started. It's much bigger today. And so I probably have lost a bit of that perspective, even though I still feel like we're small. But what has been very helpful for me from running a business, but being part of Goldman, is that we have a relatively small number of people whose job it is to think about these things.
Right.
Which allows for most of the rest of us to be able to be focused totally on clients.
And stay positive.
And stay positive, but also be present.
Right.
Because when this stuff is happening, that's when the clients need to speak to you.
Yep.
And if you're spending the time, oh, you know what, I don't have power over here, I have to figure out how to get power, or we have to figure out how to get our people out of harm's way, whatever it is, then that's going to take away from that approach. So I think it's kind of like any team, different people have their jobs to do, and it's being clear during times when it's not stressful to say, okay, what are the jobs, who's responsible, and then how do we think about things?
One common theme I hear from you and some of the other people that we've talked to on this show is think about the client or the customer. And that's really your focus. And I think that's, what makes a successful business is to constantly think about that, making sure their needs are met, communication. Yeah. How would you describe that relationship?
No, it's waking up in the morning thinking about the client. And you can take that too far because there's other important things in life. I don't discount that. But the notion that we don't have anything if we don't have the clients. You just have to kind of start with that. Although, Jane, I think about this a lot. I really do think there's three stools to our business, and I spend a lot of time on making sure that those are cared for evenly, such that you're not overweighting one because it'll come to the detriment of the other two. So it's the clients first and foremost. As I said, there's no question about that. But it's also the people. And I actually think of our people as clients, a derivative of that as clients. Yes. Because guess what? If the people leave, and our business is about long-term relationships, people don't like that when that's disrupted for whatever reason. And so when people leave, clients don't like that, which means I'm in trouble on that. And so making sure you have the right people, and I think about a lot of things, but low turnover is one of them, because that's the manifestation of people are happy, satisfied, feel fulfilled in what they do. And then the third thing is shareholders. If the enterprise is clients are happy, people are happy, but it doesn't generate a profitability where people want to continue to sustain that model, and the whole thing doesn't work. And so all of these things I think are important and need to be in the kind of right kind of balance for long-term sustainability.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of leads into, I was curious about just how do you manage the stress? I mean, I can imagine, dealing with a lot of money. Wall Street is a famously stressful place.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? How do you balance all of that in your life and stay sane through all your years at Goldman?
Well, thank you. That presumes that I am sane. When you asked the question, the first response I was thinking of is just decide not to be stressed. Decide, no stress. And yet, I think that's really important. As much as possible to kind of know where you are am I at a 7 right now because I really need to be at a 4? And if so, why am I at a 7? What's really the thing that's going on that's bugging me, and how can I attack that? Markets going up and down for whatever, and it might be just literally that the 87 market crash happened when I just got out of the training program, and it was crazy, but as someone said to me, well, the good news is you don't have any money, so you couldn't have lost any. That was true. So what's the bad news? He said, well, the bad news is the industry is over, so you won't have a job. Fortunately, the latter didn't turn out to be the case. But I think market stress is something that I've been kind of okay with. It's much more the people stress. By the way, our people in our lives and family outside and things like that, and managing those. But I think it's being very alert to where it is on that, and then say, what are the things I can do? And markets go down, and there's not a lot you can do.
Well, and you mentioned the risk management. So I think that's a big part of kind of controlling that stress. Just real quick follow-up. Do you find you handle stress better as your career went on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit like taking risk. And if you are educated about the risk, you will ultimately be comfortable with taking more of it than would otherwise be the case. And I do believe, and markets show you, that there's a risk-reward element, i.e. over time, and especially if you stretch it out 5 years, 10 years, but what about 30 years in investment horizons? Stocks, arguably, Warren Buffett would say, stocks in the long run are not risky. Cash is risky because you'll lose from inflation, and the reverse is true for the short run. So I think as you gain in years and experience, you do have a broader perspective of things, and you're able to kind of look at things more from that approach. I've seen this before, I've done this, whatever. It ultimately worked out. And because I saw this before, and because I saw the 87 market crash, I always made sure I had some amount of cash. Okay. I think these are the things that allow you to be more thoughtful, because ultimately this will end. And yet, in your gut, be able to kind of live with the anxiety of the current moment.
Thank you so much, Tucker.
Yeah.
Tucker, thanks.
So interesting.
Thank you, guys. It's great to be with you. I really appreciate what you're doing, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it.
When a market shift is around the corner, invest in an entire sector and get ahead of the curve. Is it so radical to be so rational? Before investing, consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Go to sectorspiders.com for a prospectus containing this information. Read it carefully. Sector Spiders, the 11 sectors of the S&P 500. There are many ways to buy the S&P 500, but only one way allows you to own the sectors you like best. Sector Spider ETFs. Is it so radical to be so rational? Before investing, consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Go to sectorspiders.com for a prospectus containing this information. Read it carefully. Sector Spiders, the 11 sectors of the S&P 500.
IMG Academy is the world's leading sports education brand, providing access and opportunity for student athletes. So with me is Tim Pernetti, the president of IMG Academy. Great to have you back here at the NASDAQ.
Thanks for having me,
So
Jane.
kind of lay the groundwork. Explain in detail what everything that IMG Academy does.
Well, you did a great job kicking it off.
Yeah.
IMG Academy is the leading global sports education brand. And naturally we're known as a brand for sport, but the model at IMG Academy is designed on holistic and intentional personal development. But what IMG Academy really has become is a suite of products, whether it's online recruiting or online coaching, or the core product, which is the physical campus in Bradenton, Florida, 600 acres, 1,500 students attending the boarding school, thousands of kids coming to sports camps in the summer, MLS teams doing preseason training, NFL teams on bye weeks. It's become a hub sort of as the epicenter of what we do. But the difference maker is in how we approach the entire proposition for young people. Intentional personal development is designed to help young people win their future in college, in life, whatever they choose to do. And what's unique is we build the model based on 4 core areas. There's a student life component. Kids live there. They live together. They're on a physical campus. There is academics. There are athletics. And then there is what we call athletic and personal development. And that personal development is really what the game changer, difference maker is for us, and really makes IMG Academy one of one.
So sports boarding school, some people say, it sounds like it's more than that, but is that kind of the basic premise here?
Well, I love when people say to me, IMG Academy in sports, I want to grab them by the hand and take them inside the walls and show them what we do, because students will spend a committed amount of time on sport every single day, but they also will spend time at school. They will spend time with each other, and they will spend time doing some personal development in something different almost every day. Personal development, think about it as a funnel of life skills. Okay, so naturally I'm an athlete. I have to get stronger. There's strength and conditioning. I have to be physically fit. There's conditioning and endurance and speed. But there's leadership. There's confidence building. There is mental conditioning. There's mindset training. There's nutrition. There is brand building. We're teaching kids about social media. We're educating on name, image, and likeness, which is a very hot thing right now in sports. So the idea is to bring a funnel of life skills to every young person, which adequately prepares them for whatever they choose to do, which starts with their college journey.
Okay, now are these high school students, college students, both, or just college, or?
No, so the boarding school is grades 6 to 12.
Okay.
We also do have some postgraduate students that are graduated from high school and doing an additional year as they start to figure out their college path. But naturally, academics is sort of a core component of it. While we're known for sports, we also are opening everyone's eyes to this is a unique model that doesn't exist anywhere in the world.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned the personal development along with the athletics, and that's kind of an innovative concept. You mentioned no place else like it. Explain that a little bit more. How does that work exactly?
Sure. So, athletes, I think it was different when we were younger and we were athletes. You worked hard, you played, but the pressures of the presence and social media and exposure, and students deal with more that compete in athletics and just sort of generally in their high school life than they ever did before. So the way for us to truly develop the entire individual, and not just their sport ability or not just their ability in school, is to help them focus on the things that will change the game. And I'll give you a great example. For all the Michigan fans, Michigan won the national championship in football. J.J. McCarthy, their starting quarterback, was a student at IMG Academy.
Okay.
And it was during the COVID year, and it was challenging for a lot of our young people. J.J. McCarthy benefited from our personal development more than anyone because confidence, mindset, we got him into meditation when he was there, and he told a whole story at his press conference about learning to deal with mental health through meditation. And if you go to a Michigan game, even the national championship, he sat under the goalpost an hour before the game meditating. So all the noise going around, and he's sitting there with his eyes closed, focused on meditation. That is a direct result of our personal development. We were able to instill something in him that helped him prepare himself for the stage that he's on, and he had great success this year.
Yeah, sure did. So a bright future for him too.
For
It looks
sure.
for. And the academics, how do you balance that? The academics and the sports, would you say sports is primary, or how does that all work?
What I always say is, like, if you think about academics, athletics, personal development, if you were a parent, you would say, these are my triplets. Nobody's more important than the other. It all has equal weight. And how we balance it is, it's a highly structured environment. What I'd say for a lot of kids, like, it's not for everybody, but we do deliver it in a way that feels like the college experience, because when students leave to go to a university and compete in sports, all they do is open the door. It's the same environment. We are setting an academic standard at IMG Academy. That's a reality. The curriculum is rigorous, it's challenging, it's deep, and we also offer fun stuff that you won't get at a normal high school. An example, a student came to me and said, I'm really interested in the business. Like, we run a hotel, we run food and beverage, we have a marketing. That one student opened the door for us to do a program with students where they shadow executives and work on our executive team and with other
At the academy.
to learn
You've got
about
right
what we
there,
do.
yeah.
That's not something you're going to get in a traditional environment. So what I would say is we run a little bit more like a college, and we're practicalizing education to put kids in situations where they're learning and getting practical experience versus just classroom experience.
Now tell me about your leadership. When did you become president? How has the campus and the program expanded?
Yeah, it's been a fun ride. You know, I was at bigger IMG as part of, Endeavor, a public company, for 8 years running different businesses. And when COVID came around, IMG Academy was one of the things I was managing at a corporate level. And I went there full time, so that was 2020. And took the president role and partnered with our CEO, Brent Richard. And we started to look at our business. The goal initially was to keep it open during COVID, which we did. And then we were able to bring the WNBA there to do their season during COVID. And then we were sort of open for business. How things have changed is, like, I really believe leadership is listening. And I got into a thing that existed for 30 years, and I just started asking questions, mainly of students. And what leadership there, and it's not just me, there's 1,200 employees there, like, it's taken all of us, has been focused on experience. Because the business was running really, really well. We were looking at retention. Why isn't it a little bit better? Why are more kids not returning to camp year after year? And we started to look at experience and talk to students. And what did students say? There needs to be other places for us to hang out on our downtime, outside of the dorm and the field. Okay. What can we do about the food and create more variety? What can we do for the girls' experience? So my leadership and the team's leadership has been focused on creating an unrivaled experience. And it's working because more kids are coming back. More kids are trying to come to IMG Academy. Camp is growing. The pro sports business is growing. But as you can imagine, we built a new facility for our students called the Campus Center. And what did they want? Casual lounge space to hang out with each other, a library, quiet study space, food. We partnered with the Wahlberg family. Wahlburgers is now in our campus center. Okay. Sachs Big Chicken is now in our campus center. And we have added variety and quality to the food experience because you and I talked off the air. You have a daughter around my daughter's age who's 16. All they do is eat around the clock. So they want to have variety.
Yes.
But experience has been the focus, and our belief is if experience is in focus, the business takes care of itself, and that's exactly what's happening at IMG Academy.
And you mentioned the girls' experience. How do you enhance that for the women athletes?
When I got to IMG Academy and I was learning, I was walking around, and I think my own inner voice observation was, where are the girls? Because I think in my mind, I figured it's got to be 50-50. We were a little lopsided, more boys than girls, and we started to talk to girls. And what we've done is we started with launching something called the Women in Sports Committee. And we have involved some of the most influential women in sport and entertainment in this. Lindsey Vonn, Lindsay Davenport, Carrie Champion, Danny Garcia, Michelle Tafoya, and Robin Roberts. And we brought them to Florida, we formed this committee, and we had them advise us on how to build a better experience for girls. And part of it was funding more financial aid, and we had girls apply for these scholarships. We had the committee select based on certain criteria and mentor these girls through their journey. But we've also come up with retreats where the girls are off on this day and they all go off campus and they retreat with each other and our leadership. So the girls have basically said, like, yeah, we're athletes too, but we're girls.
Yeah.
Let's have an experience that's customized for us. We are retaining more girls. More girls are coming to IMG Academy, and I think we are headed on a good trajectory.
Yeah, and you mentioned like the bonding experiences that I think is important for boys and girls sports. It's really important for the teams. So what's in the future for IMG Academy?
Oh God, the list is so long. We could go on and on. But I think the key to really building a great experience is to focus on the things you can do really, really well versus trying to do everything at once, and it becomes mediocre. But we were acquired last summer we exited Endeavor. We were acquired by EQT in private equity. The awesome news about this is They also own a portfolio company called Nord Anglia Education. Nord is home to more than 80 of the top boarding schools all over the world. So now we have a true partner in the education collaboration lane. And in exchange, we're bringing sport education into some of their institutions all over the world, which we're already doing with online coaching, and we'll do with sports camps next summer. So that collaboration is really going to up the ante on our game in a lot of ways, because we have like-minded people in the building with us that are colleagues. And then lastly, the 600-acre campus is expanding. There'll be new facilities. We launched new sports like Tied to Girls. We launched girls volleyball last year. It's been a monster success. There will be new sports in our future, new facilities in our future, with everything that is focused on experience. But this went from being a place to being a suite of connected products. And I also anticipate we're going to develop some fun new products along the way that not only develop young people, but develop professionals and coaches and executives along the way. Like, I'm excited about what's next.
Yeah, it makes sense. So Tim, thanks so much for coming in and updating us on IMG.
Thank you, Jane.
Thanks.
You could buy a single stock and go all in on one company, or own the sector and invest in keeping good company. Is it so radical to be so rational? Before investing, consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Go to sectorspiders.com for a prospectus containing this information. Read it carefully. Sector Spiders, the 11 sectors of the S&P 500.